It feels so good to be in the sunlight. Don't get me wrong, it hurts my eyeballs a little bit, but every other part of me is just like, oh God, this feels good. And honestly, it feels wildly appropriate for the video we're doing today. Like, my headline for jumping off into my content is how I use human design to stay healthy, how I use human design to support my health, how I use human design for differentiated health. What do I mean when I say differentiated health? If you're familiar with 5 and 6 in human design, whether it is 5th line, 5th color, going into 6th line, or 6th color, one of the keynotes for the 5 is universalization. The 5, the 5th line profile, is here to universalize the truth, a universal truth, to strangers. They're the best received by strangers. Now I want you to think about that like a 5 is the kind of person who's going to be on the stage communicating to a room full of people they don't really know on a topic that has the ability to apply to everybody in some kind of way. It's a universal truth. What's different about the 5 to the 6 is the 5 universalizes. The 6th is highly, highly individual. It's mutative. It's differentiated. We're going into like a DNA and quantum realm. And so in this video, using human design for differentiated health. Really, this is about how to be healthy in ways that work for you and might not work for anybody else. That's the beauty of design. You can add your human design to the typical, standardized, universalized healthcare advice that you're gonna get, and you're gonna see ways in which you're different. There are gonna be things that are gonna work for you that don't work as well for other people, and vice versa. So this isn't necessarily about how you're having differentiated health. That's one of the reasons people work with me. I work with people to access this for them, to explain how it's different and unique for them. But as the example, I'm going to talk about my own experience in particular because I'm a 6th color view. I'm personal view. Most of what I have to offer, most of what is helpful for me to share are things that I have been through from my own firsthand experience. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of reframing my experience on my health journey. We're all on health journeys in a way. Like, hopefully you're born healthy, and then ideally you're gonna maintain that as best as you can until your health runs out. I want to help you live a long, healthy, comfortable life, and the way that you're going to do that is going to be very unique. It's differentiated according to your design. So what parts of your design are you looking at to see how this changes for you? Now, I come from a background in health and wellness, but I always wonder, like, this is one of those chicken and the egg conversations for me, or the horse before the cart, or whatever. It's like in trying to learn, did you become a thing, or are you a thing and it's expressing itself through you? That's been like something I've kind of laughed at recently. Like, am I interested in healthcare, or do I not really have a choice but to be interested in healthcare because I'm a splenic person? My authority in human design is the spleen, and ultimately the question for my authority over and over and over again is this healthy or not? So if I've lived my whole life being the type that I am with the strategy that I have, and being the authority that I am, splenic, my whole life there's been this, is it healthy? Is it healthy? Is it healthy? So when I grow up and my predominant interest in life is how to be healthy, is this really something I'm interested in, or is it something I'm born to explore, to understand, to have awareness of? If you are somebody who cares about the certificate on the wall or the qualifications that somebody has, you might be disappointed with me The only qualification I'm putting on the wall is holistic health practitioner. And even though I got like 99% in the program, honestly, it's not really something you should care about. That little certificate on the wall might contribute to, well, 5 to 10% of the conversations on health I'm going to have, but it makes some people feel better to know that there's something up there. What's important to know about me is that because this has been an interest my whole life, it's something that I have studied in so many different ways, but not just studied. I'm someone who puts everything I learn into practice. I need to test it out in real life to see if it works for me or not. I'm a third line personality. My profile is a 3/6. So I consciously am this third line that's like, let me try that. Let me try that. No matter what I've studied, there has been this part of me that's gone, let me try that. No matter what health advice or information I've come across, there's been this undefined ego, there's been this willingness to see how it goes, to experiment with it, to play with it, to test it. When I was 22, there were a couple years in my early 20s where I worked in a health food store, and I worked specifically in the supplement department. One of the cool things about that experience was every couple of minutes I was having these like micro consultations with people about their health and trying to match them up with the product that was best for them, that would solve their issue, that would support them in some way. I think it's really interesting being the channel of surrender, knowing I'm like literally here to sell health products, that there have been so many variations of how I've done that. And I learned so much about what your typical person is experiencing, what they have problems with, what their discomfort is. And also, when you talk to a lot of people in these tiny little consultations, what was also really interesting to me were people's attitudes about their health, whether there was shame or embarrassment or curiosity. Like, not only do people struggle with issues, but they struggle with how to find someone to help them with it, how to communicate it, even to put a voice to like some of the things they're feeling or experiencing. Like trying to describe pain or discomfort to somebody else can be a really challenging experience. You know, I think how cool it would have been to be able to have people's charts and to be able to guide them to what was appropriate for them based on the information in front of me. But at that point in time, I didn't have the information in front of me. And in fact, it would be quite a few years until I found human design. And without all of the backstory leading up to how I found human design, would I have used it? Would it have been? And like all of these are honestly, they're silly, undefined head questions. It doesn't really matter how I ended up here. The point is, at this point, I'm here. And now we're going to talk about the things that I've learned along the way. If I could take strategy and authority back into all of the previous consultations I had had with people for health, whether it was when I worked at the health food store or when I had my herbal company or when I was doing nutritional consulting at the chiropractic office, like I had a variation of avenues through which I did health work and people connected with me. But the intersection of the holistic work and human design is really, really interesting, and honestly is too long of a story, and I've told versions of it many different ways. But there was an intersection. I particularly remember having my office inside the chiropractic office. There are a variety of practitioners that work there. And I had people coming in and they would think that they were there for like holistic health coaching. And it's so fascinating because the ones that I asked were generators. I would say, can I talk to you about your human design? Can I run your body graph? And not even that I had a lot of information to share with them at the time, but I knew I needed access to the information. They would come to me with these issues and I wanted to see their charts so I could have that while they were telling me all of these discomforts they were experiencing. Now, typically when you go to someone for health support, you're going to explain what's going wrong for you. The practitioner is going to take that into the information that they know, their system awareness in some way, and they're going to give you back advice, guidance. More often than not, you have someone informing and someone informing back, like telling me about their health issues, and I tell them what I think they should do about it. And right there, I see that this is where the majority of things became less effective. It's not that they go wrong or that they don't work, it's that they lose their potency. If you know what somebody's design is, you can engage with them correctly from a strategy place. But it's not just engaging with your health practitioners from a strategy place. It's engaging with life from a strategy place. If all of the people that were coming to me for health support were already doing a good job of engaging with their life through their strategy and making decisions according to their authority, I would venture to say that at least 50% of the issues that they think that they're coming to me for wouldn't even exist. You know, when you don't live your life according to strategy and authority, the number one thing that you're going to experience is resistance. Things that make your life harder, things that feel like you are actually truly oxidizing the body. You're like rusting yourself out. You're making things so much harder on yourself. You're not living life efficiently. You're overusing energy that you don't have. You're running deficits. You're going into burnout. Like, I know you know what I'm talking about. That's how most people live their life. It's why most people have so many problems. They're suffering so much, and particularly physically. But if you could get people to live according to strategy and authority, you would remove so many problems, so many obstacles, so much effort. What would that feel like right there for the person's body, for their energy? Now, I think for myself, strategy. For me, strategy is wait to be invited. If I only go places where someone else has requested that I be there, there's effort that goes into invitation. You know, there's literally a clearing of the way so that it's easier for me to get there. If I only go places where I have been recognized and invited, the sense of ease that I have in going those places is wildly different from the sense of resistance that I feel going places where I'm not wanted. And I think about, you know, I really focus on the body, but you can never abandon the mind, right? The mind has to go wherever the body goes. And while I want the body to be the life, you know, the vehicle, I want to trust the vehicle to take me where I need to go, I can't leave my passenger behind, right? So part of what is interesting for my awareness is constantly like looking back at my passenger I'm carrying along and being like, oh, she's asleep. And I don't mean asleep as in aware, I mean like, if you take your kid who needs a nap for a ride and they pass out in the car, you're like, yes, I got the baby to sleep. Like, what a smooth ride that is. Whereas if the baby is constantly crying or throwing things or asking for things, right? Like, that's wildly distracting to have to get involved with that while the vehicle is trying to take me somewhere. I see myself as like that freaking out little kid in the background. And when I can get me to go to sleep, really what I'm talking about is like a relaxed and surrendered passenger. If I think about going to places where I haven't been invited, my passenger is not relaxed and surrendered. My passenger is like, what's gonna go wrong here? Oh God, it's like bracing. You know, it's bracing for the car crash. That's not a relaxed, comfortable state. Like just in thinking about my strategy, I've done so much for not only my physical, but my mental health. If I don't worry about getting involved in things unless I've been engaged appropriately according to strategy, like I can tell things are different for me right now. Do you ever see me lay back in a video? And this isn't a mindful like, okay, lay back. Okay, lay back. It's like there's significantly less tension in my body. Things have been really shifting for me in a way that is like, I have nervous excitement about it because I can tell things are changing, but I don't know where it's going. I can tell that it consistently feels good to keep heading in that direction, but I'm still like, where am I going? You know, I'm the little kid right now in the backseat, like, are we there yet? But I really don't know where there is. I just know that the ride is feeling better and better. You know, I'm starting to like road trips. Now, there are a lot of different authorities you can be, but the one that I have is splenic. The question for the spleen is this healthy or not? Is this healthy or not? And in terms of how I live my life, that was not how I made most of my decisions. I was not encouraged or supported to make decisions from that place. Most of us aren't. And there's a good chance spleen is not your authority. It might really not be how you're meant to make decisions, but it is for me. Now, however you are made, like let's say you have a solar plexus, let's say you're emotional authority. You need to make decisions based on clarity, right? Like we each have a thing inside us, our own, and I say inside us with a grain of salt. You know, reflectors have the moon, it's external. Mental projectors need the soundboard, they require, you know, support from someone else. But we each have a method, let's say that. We each have a method for how we make decisions. And if you can honor what your method is, you know, that authority's primary function is to make the right decision for what you are. It's not for you to get up in your head and be like, should I make this? You have an authority and you don't have to believe me, right? Like, it's not like I'm telling you what to do. It's more like, I found this system. I played with this system. I have validated this system for myself. I would never operate outside of how human design encourages me to operate, because my life then compared to my life now, I would never go back. I would never, ever, ever go back to the way that my life was before human design. This is an experiment I'm doing. I've validated for myself. I think that there's real truth and value in this. You do whatever you want. Follow your strategy or don't. Follow your authority or don't. Ultimately, I'm not responsible for your decisions or the outcome of them. I'm only here because I can't help but be interested in this. I can't help but to talk about this. If you've known me for an extended period of time, you know, human design or not, health has always been something that has been really interesting to me. It's what I've built. My businesses, my lifestyle, my interests, my hobbies, like they all revolve around it. And it's not to say that like I am the example of health. Like, I am not necessarily healthy all the time. And a lot of that has to do with the experiments. You know, I have this willingness to try, this willingness to play with things. So I've done a lot of things where I'm like, oh, this feels really good. Now let me try the opposite just to validate how good I was. Yeah, no, this feels terrible. Okay, I should go back to the thing that felt good. You see me do that a lot. That's part of what it is to be a third line. I find out what doesn't work. You know, there's an interesting thing in combination with being a third line, with being a defined spleen. I find out what doesn't work, and I know what to let go that isn't healthy, that isn't serving me. Most of what you will get from any interaction with me is some awareness or perspective on what's not serving you, what's not going to work, what we're done trying, what isn't making us healthy, what we need to let go of in order to possibly be healthier. You know, my own spleen teaches me through my authority to engage with things that are healthy for me, to accept things that are healthy for me, and to reject things that aren't. But me as a person, that contributes to the role that I have here. And my role is to play with things, determine what doesn't work, determine what isn't healthy, and to be okay with surrendering to letting that thing go. With me, you learn how to let go, how to surrender, how to try, how to experiment. I want to give you the power to release what isn't serving you. Strategy and authority will always come first, but they can't do anything for you if you don't love yourself. It is a cliche thing to say, and this is probably why it didn't come up first in the video. You gotta love yourself to do any of this stuff. You have to love yourself to be healthy. You have to love yourself in order to play with your human design experiment. You have to love yourself to commit to making changes that feel better for you. You have to love yourself enough to let go of the things that are hurting you. You have to love yourself enough to think that you could be an authority. Here's the thing, authority requires respect. Self-respect is not common. Self-love is even less common. If you love yourself, you'll respect yourself. If you'll respect yourself, you might be able to see yourself as an authority figure. If you see yourself as an authority figure, you've done 90% of the work. If you see yourself as your own authority figure, you basically graduated human design already, and everything else will come in its own time. If you don't see yourself as an authority, that's why you're here. That's why you found human design, so that you could learn to become one, so that you could learn to see yourself that way. But none of this is going to happen for you unless you have self-love. You know, when I ask myself the question, is this healthy or not? My willingness to experiment with things that are unhealthy for me is directly related to how much I love myself. If I don't love myself, I'm very, very, very fast to sabotage myself. And it's also not like, I love myself, yay, we're here. Like, this is an ongoing process. This is something I daily have to check in with about. Sometimes it's bad, you know, sometimes I have to check in with myself like every couple of minutes. Sometimes I'm in a mood, sometimes I'm in a rough spot. Sometimes I'm processing something, sometimes I'm unregulated, and I have to like ask myself, you know, are we good? Are we okay? Do we need anything right now? And a lot of the times there's this question of, is there anything that we need to let go of right now? And for me, like, I can really use that question a lot to ask my not self things. Like, let's say, you know, I'm getting really stressed out trying to accomplish a whole bunch of things, and I can feel this sense of adrenaline, and this adrenaline is starting to dysregulate other parts of my body. I can ask myself, like, hold on a sec. Are we succumbing to not self pressure right now? Are we trying to be free of the pressure that we know that you actually can never be free from? Yep, okay. So we should stop doing that. Yep. Okay. So we're gonna let go of that pressure. Now what? Now the pressure's gone. What do we need? Oh, I didn't realize, like, I was really thirsty and, you know, my blood sugar was dipping and I need to eat. Okay, let's go take care of those things. And like, huge water bottle. This is a 1 liter, 946 mils. This is basically a wine bottle, except it's water. And I'm drinking, I don't know, I think I aim to drink probably 4 of these a day, but I'm definitely taking in other drinks and other stuff. But there are many jokes about being a hydro homie. Maybe you're a hydro homie. I love hydro flasks. They don't leak. They're very effective. They got good straws. But what I put into my body is really important, like really, really, really significant. But what I put into my body and how significant that is not the same as what you put into your body and how significant that is. That's the difference between going from the 5 to the 6. You know, that 5 universalized level says we all need to eat, you know? But we don't all need to eat the same way. Determination is one of the ways that I keep myself really healthy. And yet, it's relatively new. Like, I'm on my 5th year in human design. I had no idea what determination was in the beginning. It was like strategy, authority. I had no idea about substructure. Let's say a year into design, I start to get more awareness about substructure and I am told what my determination is. But it says a thing and I immediately go look into it and it gives me a couple of sentences where I can find them and I think this is the new rule, you know, consecutive determination. Turns out I'm a first color determination. That means simple. That means one thing after another. It means one thing at a time. It means whole ingredient. It means a lot of things that I didn't know that it meant. But hearing something and then trying to apply it with limited understanding is not how this goes. You know, I covered self-love and strategy and authority first because that's how you align yourself to your correct determination. Now, ideally, you figure out your determination between 0 and 30 years old. You know, human design ultimately is for the kids. What we really mean is you can be relatively old, very conditioned when you find human design, and you're not going to retroactively change your life experience, but you can raise the next generation to not have to go through certain things, to not have to decondition certain things. Like I'm raising a Manny-gen right now. I have a 9-year-old son, and I try and raise him according to his determination. And yet strategy and authority comes first. So I don't say to Maven, you need to eat food that is above your body temperature because your hot thirst determination. I say to Maven, would you like this or would you like this? And I give him some options that I think are good options. And he goes, this one, or he goes, and he doesn't pick either one. He needs me to offer new things. But strategy, wait to respond. Authority, pure sacral in the now. Do you want this? Uh-huh. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if I say this is hot thirst, you're eating it, right? What matters is that he has a response. What matters is that I'm training my son to be asked questions, to have an honest answer, and for that honest answer to be sufficient. It doesn't require a lot of conversation. My son's going behind a little pillar there and he's gonna pop out over here and blind me in a few minutes. The lighting has changed for a second. Determination is how you feed your brain. Ideally, that's a 0 to 30 range, but when you hit 30, when you hit Saturn return, your environment becomes so important. The body needs to be in the right environment, not only to remove resistance from the physical form, but also to unlock the view perspective. First, we feed the brain. You know, when the body is in the correct environment and either stimulated into the correct activity or relaxed into the right passive way that they become the observer. You know, the body is meant to express itself differently according to leftness or rightness and according to the color number of the environment. Like I am a left arrow and a second color, so I am a markets internal. I become activated, stimulated into the right activity in my markets environment, and that unlocks my personal view perspective. You know, I shift my body because then I'm suddenly moving over to the personality side. I see through my personal view, and the lens that I look through is how I keep myself focused, how I stay out of distraction and distortion. Again, so many of these elements, they make your life more comfortable. They make it easier to be what you are. And when you are surrendered, relaxed, comfortable, doing the right things in the right places with the right people, your life will automatically be so much healthier. Most of the issues that we deal with are because all of those steps went wrong. You know, you don't love yourself, you're not following your strategy, you don't know what your authority is, you're not feeding your brain correctly, you're in the wrong place doing the wrong thing with the wrong people, you're not seeing correctly, and all of this is giving you one hell of a mental health headache. I have always been someone who has been interested in health, but I had to detour through human design to learn personally all of these different elements how to work with them, how to execute them, how to be confident in them. I've been teaching human design. I've been guiding people through their own body graph with human design for years. The interesting thing is going back to that intersection with those original generator clients and being like, can I run your chart? Can I look at this stuff? Because now that I can have my history of dealing with the health problems, but I can have my present of knowing how to engage with people's body graphs, the pathway for people to get to their differentiated health is so much clearer to me, and that is the core of my focus. It's going to be my focus for a really long time. I'm really excited and I'm a little overwhelmed, and more than anything I have to say, I'm comfortable, I'm relaxed. I'm coming from a really surrendered and regulated and trusting place. And wherever I'm going, I guess you're coming with me.